First, let me just say that if I mumble, I apologize. I spent a delightful afternoon with a dentist, and my enunciation may be a little bit tight. So, anyway, we have tonight, first up, thank you for coming. Bill, why don't you join us? We have Bill Ritchie of the Consolidated Facilities Department, and after that, we'll be seeing Bill Clark when he gets finished upstairs, and we'll review some of the new articles for the spring town meeting. So let me pull your budget up, Bill, and I don't know if you want to. Okay. All right, Darnell, troubleshoot me. This isn't broken. Yeah.
Bill, maybe for the, just a brief synopsis of what your department does, because we do have some new members on the board.
Sure.
So just go over it just a little bit, please.
Yeah, so Department of Consolidated Facilities started back in 2011. We pretty much today oversee about 23 buildings, about 950,000 square feet of space. We're involved in many things. We have a professional work order system. We started out, it's called School Dude. That's where department heads or teachers, staff can send in a work order. You can track it, and document it, who did it, how long it took. That's about a $5,000 system. We started out about 2.5 years ago, that work order. We're up to 5,000 work orders. The bad news is that because now everybody knows we're out there, we're about 300 work orders behind schedule. And obviously with snowstorms like this, every week we're going to be another 100 behind because obviously when all your resources and time goes to snow removal. But the department, we're pretty much involved in every, in we do everything. We work very closely with the DPW department and school department. We oversee the custodians. We do contract cleaning. The town hall, the senior center, the police department, and the library has contract cleaners. All the school department has in-house union custodians. I've been in this job for 3 years, working in town for about 15. So 12 years on the school department as facilities director, and about 30 years in the business. Long time. Is that pretty much, yeah?
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks.
okay.
We're getting there. It's all right.
Okay, maintenance, do you use a maintenance program?
Yeah, it's called School Dude.
Read again?
It's called School Dude.
Who do?
I mean, it's basically mostly, a lot of school districts kind of inherited that probably about 10, 15 years ago. But we kind of expanded it now into town buildings. And they do everything. It's a web-based program. So all the information is stored somewhere else. But School Dude now has really, they got into energy efficiency, capital planning, preventative maintenance. But you have to buy all the different modules to it.
Do you have call centers? Do you have a call center?
Yep, if we have, it's 365 days a year. If we had any issues, problems with the system, we call them up. There's always somebody on board to help us with the programming. We can do free training. There's free training programs. But, and the way I do it.
Preventive maintenance as well?
Oh, yeah, yep. Yeah, some of the work orders, if you sent a work order to me, you'd have a form on the computer, like a broken chair.
Yeah.
And then we would assign it, Diane, who's my office assistant, would assign it to that person who has that skill. So we'll go to a craftsman, a painter, electrician, and it's all broken down from there. And then we track it if you need to buy supplies, repairs, how long it took to do the job, and then we close it out. So it's a real nice system.
So do you have to bring in outside help to do
Oh,
that?
yeah. Yeah, we probably still have, 16 or 17 outside vendors, basically elevators, sprinkler systems,
Yeah.
fire alarm,
Yeah.
and a lot of specialty services that we need above and beyond the job. Yeah.
I was at Harvard and we used Maximo.
Okay, yes, okay, yeah, that's it, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of programs out there.
Yeah. They weren't initially.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is about 15 programs today.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah. Everybody uses it now.
Yeah.
So, we have your budget up for
Yeah.
inspection. And I guess, we're looking at, primarily the differences you're presenting from, what you might like, and what we're contractually obligated to continue, as long as we're not firing anybody. So looking at that difference, what really stands out, and I don't know if anybody can see any of these numbers at all. These are pretty bad.
Yeah.
These are still PDFs we were getting at the beginning of the
Okay.
season, and we're now gonna just get them all as Excel documents, and they're easier to read.
Okay.
But at any rate, so, too much. So the big jump, obviously, is in your salary line.
Right.
And if nobody else noticed, $140,000 and representing two craftsmen.
An HVAC tech and a maintenance man for the schools.
Right. Have been transferred from the school department to the consolidated facilities department. And, this is, I think, about the end of the official agreement between the town and the school to set your department up as much as possible. I don't think there's any more developments coming along.
So
This is it, right?
that's correct. As far as maintenance, so my role, my operations role is we oversee all the maintenance and custodial on the schools. So what took place in our negotiations that the heating ventilation technician and a maintenance man was agreed to transfer over into the department. They pretty much, in actuality, have been transferred over the last 2 years, but the money was never there. I still manage them and, still overseeing them, but as of July 1st, that money would be transferred over into the department as far as their uniform allowance and some overtime. I took a 3-year average of the overtime and tried to, and I spoke with the business manager of the school department, and we agreed to a set salary of $6,000, and that's what we're moving over, for overtime, and we threw that overtime into our budget. Obviously, a brand-new department, you're still trying to build it, and you're still, just lots of things that are unknown. But as, I feel the most fairest way was to take a 3-year average for the time being. This winter, I don't know. This winter's gonna be a bigger challenge if it keeps snowing.
Right, because actually you're responsible for some snow removal.
A good portion of snow, yeah, all the sidewalks, all around the school buildings, some of the town, we actually do, we assist the DPW in plowing. We plow 2 school lots ourselves, so we do, do big snowstorm, we'll work with the town and say, we have 2 guys free, what do you want us to do while you guys are doing your operations? So we work very closely with the DPW.
So what equipment do you bring to the party in terms of snow removal?
Well, right now, we actually have 5 vehicles. We have 2 plow trucks on the school side with a sander. So we have an F-350 and F-250, and we utilize them. And then obviously, they're not gonna be plowing 15, 16 inches of snow, but we do a lot of what we call cleanup and mop-up work, all the handicap spots, all the fire egresses, all the trash containers, and that takes a lot of time. That's all the detail work, which takes a lot of time.
Right, so you just have the 2 trucks, did you
That's-
have
yeah.
a
Well,
little
Yeah,
closed
yeah,
unit?
well, that's called a Kubota, yes.
Kubota.
And that pretty much stays at the high school because we have a lot of sidewalks and we have a lot of rentals on weekends, so that Kubota is always running. Because when you rent the facility, you want to make it safe for everybody who rents it. So that's pretty, and a couple of times we did take it down, this last big snowstorm, we took it down to Tucker to work with the DCR to try to get some of the sidewalks cleared down there. So it actually worked out pretty good.
So we can talk about the overtime later, but basically, the $140,000 It's on a footnote on the bottom of the last Schedule E. Find that.
Yeah, so it came out to 139,338, so we moved over 2 positions, 6,000 overtime, and $1,000 in uniform cost. The vehicles at this time are staying with the school department, because the vehicles are used by custodians too, after hours and on weekends. So we thought it would be fair not to take the vehicles over here, because they'd have to come over here and grab them, bring them back, and they also have the facilities to store them, where I don't, on the town side. That's critical in a snowstorm. The sand that has to be stored inside, or the sand will get frozen, can't use it. I don't have those capabilities on the town side.
Okay. So this is rational. This makes sense to have these guys directly in your budget. And it's now worked out that anybody working for Consolidated Facilities can work anywhere in the town. And you have to obviously direct them. You know, a school dude is one of the tools that he uses to figure out
Yeah.
what to do. And that's a $5,000 annual maintenance cost.
That's correct, yeah.
Right, okay. It cost you more than that to acquire the program, I think.
Yeah, what you have said, you can keep buying to it. You obviously can expand. I mean, one of the things down the line, there's an energy efficiency program on that. You know, I go to a lot of meetings, and I want to talk to other towns before. It's about another $2,500 if you want to add that. But I just don't know. I do a lot of the energy calculations myself, and it may be, I have to really make it worth my while. And sometimes a new tool takes a lot of my time. Because you have to get it up and running, and you have to have the staff who wants to use it. Staff doesn't use it, the tool's not any good. Program's only as good as people want to use it. So I'm not sold on that program at this time, so.
Well, then don't buy it.
Yeah, well, no, oh, yeah, I'm not, yeah, I'd be the first. You ask anybody in my department, I'm pretty stingy with the money.
Right. So that was one big change,
Yeah.
obviously, in your budget and looking forward. The other big change, you know, just looking at the basic numbers, would be, if you can see it up there, or in your own, it's $104,000 in general expenses, which is what you'd like to have for level service, versus what was appropriated to that column last year of $72,000.
Right.
So that's you know, that's $32,000 more, and you know, last year we did pretty well, I think, supplementing your budget. Primarily, well, we were able to add the painter,
Right.
and then I think we were able to make sure that your software contract was covered, and probably about another $10,000 to bolster your buildings and grounds line. So, but obviously wasn't enough. You're looking for 42,000 now instead of 20. And I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about what is in grounds and building maintenance. Is that where all the paint is, and the lumber, and the, you know?
Yeah, that's all, yeah, so basically,
Supplies.
so I guess maybe the first question I'll do is, I'll try to address is why I jumped from 20 to 42,000.
Yeah.
So if you looked at my, for year 14, I actually spent $39,000.
Right.
And I figured, in order to go forward, and I only had 20, so we really, so I thought to do a level service, I'd go to 42, just try to put a 3% cost efficient as that. And also, I'm building a brand-new department. A lot of the other town departments really didn't have maintenance budgets. You know, working with the fire department, working with the libraries, working with the COA. So as I look at things that need to be fixed, the things that should be fixed to be somewhat preventative in nature and not reactive in nature, I had to put more money in the budget. You know, and I just feel that somebody with 30 years' experience, this is, and I think this is only, 42 may seem a lot at this table, but when you're running a maintenance department, and you have $200 million worth of property, 1 million square feet, I probably need $300,000 to do the job the right way. But, that's, I have to start somewhere to build my department. So I'm just trying to, every year, as I learn different things about the different town departments, where all the resources are needed, I try to build my budget, as a department head.
So, no, and that's fine. I mean, the reason you were able to spend 39,000 in the first place was because 21 of it was encumbered from the previous year, so that gave you better purchasing power that year. And also you underspent some of the other line items, such as equipment maintenance. That you spent 2,000 on a $16,000 line. So I'm just wondering what the story is with that too, because you're obviously looking for another
Right.
16, but
Right.
is more equipment coming on that now needs maintaining?
Yeah, well,
or-
yeah, so we
or
originally
what is
started.
the story?
Right, so we had a bigger budget starting out, had a brand-new department, I had money in the budget. I obviously had, the consolidated facilities was brand new, so we had to go out and buy equipment, snow blowers, lawn mowers to do the job. And then we took a lull, and now we're trying to build the department back up again. So as we find out that some of the snow equipment, like the snowstorm like this, some of the snow equipment I have is not really sufficient to do sidewalks. Snow blowers and a man behind it just doesn't work. It takes too long, it's dangerous, and we can't cut through 3 feet of snow. So I would like to maybe, as equipment break, and equipment, when you beat it the way we're beating it, it doesn't last as long. So I put money back in the budget to try to buy better equipment that's gonna last longer. And there's a lot more repairs in equipment. The more vehicles you buy, the more equipment there's a lot of maintenance that goes with that. So if you wanna maintain it, you have to pay for it.
No, I understand that, and I see obviously you were able to buy more equipment in fiscal year 14 than you had budgeted. And I guess in a way you covered it. I mean, it was new equipment, so it didn't need a lot of maintenance.
Yep.
So you expect that your maintenance budget is going to
Yep.
climb,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
And so that's gonna be in buying parts or buying
Well,
contracts for them, or?
It's just, just different types of equipment that we might need. We need, so obviously if we're cutting more grass, we might need, I can't have 3 guys trying to use one lawnmower.
No, I'm not talking about pieces of equipment.
Yep.
This is the equipment maintenance
Right.
line.
Yep.
It's your third line down.
Yep.
It's equipment maintenance, not new equipment,
Okay, yep.
okay?
You were budgeted for, I mean, you only spent $2,400 of 16,000 and last year, and you want $16,000
Right.
again.
Yep.
But if you're only spending $2,400,
Right.
do you need the 16,000?
Well, what happened, so we started out as a brand new department, that's some of the equipment
It's stuff coming on warranty.
that we,
Is that what it is? Is it a warranty question?
some of it has, well, yeah, some of the equipment does, you have a warranty, you mean,
It comes out of warranty. If
Okay.
your equipment 1 year out,
I mean, not all of it, but,
yeah.
Okay.
So, are any of these, or is any of this stuff under contract, any of the equipment? I mean, you have contracted services, and I'm wondering, can you give us a little detail on the contracted services, Bill?
Yeah, well, contracted services, obviously, we have elevators, we have fire alarm contracts.
Yep.
We have extinguishers, we have sprinkler system contracts, we have boiler contracts. So and then above and beyond that, it's when the contractor comes in, like the elevator contractor will come in on a monthly schedule to do oil and grease. They may find above and beyond items that need to be repaired. So that's where we would have those extra money, on an elevator to fix a door that wasn't working properly.
So some of the maintenance contracts for some of the systems in town don't necessarily cover everything.
That's correct, right, yep.
Okay.
It's a snapshot of many things that we do, and there is a little extra money in there for things above and beyond the contract, that the contract covers. Like an elevator contract, you can have a full maintenance contract, which costs $15,000 a year. where an oil and grease contract may cost $4,000 a year. So I have to pick and choose where I think the elevator's gonna break down and maybe put a maintenance contract on that. The town hall has a maintenance contract for elevator service in the public libraries. All the schools, where they have 8 elevators, we have oil and grease contracts. This would be $50,000 in contracts. I just couldn't afford it. So it's just depending on the
Right.
level of,
So are you not buying contracts that you think we ought to have?
well, it's not a gamble. It's like,
Yeah.
some people don't even have oil and grease contracts, where the technician only comes when they call him, when it breaks. At least we're on an oil and grease contract, the service technician comes there, he runs the elevator, he greases and lubes everything, and he looks around for obvious things. So a lot of times you can catch that ahead of time. If a piston blows, you want to catch it when it's leaking, not when it's broke, because it could be a $1,000 repair versus a $10,000 repair. So it's nice to have, that's the basic. Yeah, if obviously you had a lot of money, it'd be nice to have a full maintenance contract, but it's just unrealistic. Most school districts and towns do not have those types of contracts when you have that much equipment.
Sounds good. So the contracts are, you are looking for 73,000, compared to having spent 60 roughly.
Right.
Is there a particular new contract, or is that just the,
I guess it's the cost of doing business. I mean, fees go up, a lot of the big contracts, I mean, the labor rate goes up every year.
so you haven't added anything in particular, it's just the $60,000 in 14 is going to be your best guess, 73, and,
Right, yep.
okay, because that is 25% increase over 2 years. And,
Right.
these are, but these are all existing contracts.
We have many contracts, and there's money in there for above and beyond all the items that we are finding. There's contractual, like elevators, fire alarms, sprinkler systems.
Right.
Hood ventilation systems, you have to have those, they're required by law. But it's just not, they just don't show up and you just pay, there's things that they find wrong with them. They might need belts and pulleys, so you have to have extra money in there, best guess.
Okay, but the extra money is not in that line.
No, right.
Okay.
Yeah.
That would be
Right, in your
in your equipment maintenance line.
equipment, grounds or building maintenance, exactly.
Okay,
Yep.
all right. Yeah, because I do want to protect the contracts
Yep.
from, a situation where they might have to, we might ask you for a level dollar budget, and meanwhile your contracts are going up.
Yep.
And you're caught short on other things that you
I
need.
get you. Yep.
So I do want to protect those, so I certainly don't want other stuff in there. Maybe, how many contracts do you suppose you're carrying in that $70,000?
Probably at least 10 to 12 contracts.
Could you maybe give us a list and
Yep.
with a breakout? That would be great. Lee Michael?
Along those same lines as Ted was saying, I think there's a lot in here that the town probably needs to protect. I believe strongly in maintenance and keeping ahead of problems and not waiting until they get too bad. But I think that there's a lot of questions here, and I can imagine when the Warrant Committee goes to start going through budgets, we're not going to have a clear memory of why grounds and maintenance is increasing so much and what's happening with professional services and why other continued services increase so much. And these are the types of things that would be really helpful to have a little breakdown of
Okay.
in the
Right.
narrative.
Yep.
And I think it would be in the best interest of the budget if you could give a little breakdown on a few of those line items that had a large change.
Okay.
Because then when we're going through the budget process, we'll understand why we need to protect those lines.
Okay.
Yeah, Betty?
Bill, at the very end of your narrative, where you have a list of the, like, projects that you're planning on doing or wanting to do,
Yep.
town hall, the schools, council on aging, how do you prioritize those projects in terms of equity across town? Because certainly I'm looking at, the town halls is 18,800 for their projects, council on aging is 16,700. The schools over 6 buildings is 28,400. Fire is 9,700. Library is 2,800. How did you come up with that list, and how do you decide what the priorities are?
Well, obviously, it's based on need, and some of the things, Like Town Hall, we did a lot of handicap upgrades, which is really big. The COA, the biggest one, they had a lot of heating issues over there. They still have heating issues. So we had to go over there, try to revamp that system and kind of retrofit it, change some ductwork around, add some equipment. The list here.
Well, one of the questions I would have is about, when we met with the fire department
Yeah.
and the fire needs study committee earlier last year, basically, since it's 2015, they were talking a lot about the repairs that needed to be done to some of the fire stations, and I don't see that in any of these.
Right, well, most of their repairs are capital repairs.
Okay,
These are all under $10,000 repairs.
okay,
With the fire staff, the fire department needs, they obviously, when I met with Chief Grant, he needs to do a comprehensive study, like they did in the 1960s, of the repairs that need to be done in there, and it's well above and beyond what consolidated facilities would do.
Okay.
These would be professional contractors.
All right.
There's structural repairs, there are major windows, roofing, there's asbestos, there's lead paint, much,
so they're not included in this.
Wait, no, we did put some money in the capital budget, though, for the fire station,
Well, it's one of many things that the capital improvement planning committee is looking at, and eventually we'll hear from them.
Right.
And that's when we'll hear about the proposed repairs for the fire station buildings. So generally, the list Bill had for us last year was about $85,800. And that was the same type of thing, where these were small repairs that generally would take a bite out of the department's budget if they were trying to do it, and had been identified as Bill as something that needed doing. So I'm glad to see, it takes a while, but I'm glad to see the Council on Aging climate control being addressed. There are, I don't know if we want to get right to that list, but there's some, I would imagine in a way that it would be intelligent if we could just give you $100,000 every year and say, take care of the worst $100,000 batch of little projects that you've got, and then report to us on it and tell us how many other projects of that nature you can't do because there's no funding either in the departments or through this mechanism. And I guess it would be really interesting to know how many projects of this nature aren't on this sheet, of which you're aware that, because this sheet you prepared in the fall, and presumably other things have come up and people have said, Bill, what can you do for us? And you might have to tell them wait until next year, but that, at this point, that's a long ways away. So I don't know, in this process, if this sheet that you prepared in October needs an update or not. Imagine it might.
Yeah, well, like I said, I always have a working sheet.
Yep.
This working sheet's probably over $125,000, because it's a live document.
Right.
Things break and things get put off, and that probably becomes number 2, this one becomes number 1. But it's a balancing act. There's, snow, big snowstorm, you have ice dams, and it may cause flood. The police department, I'm working with the police chief on some groundwater issues down there, so we had to put in, break open the concrete floor and put, a sump pump in. So these are things that are unexpected. So, that was a priority because the basement flooded. Things, and that trumps something else.
Yeah, no.
So
So
is
it's a working document.
Yeah.
So is that knocking something off of your fiscal year 15 list that we funded for 85,000?
Yeah, well,
Probably, huh?
yeah, and then I use some of my other budget money, if I say, like a few years ago, when I was building the department, I was able, the staffing wasn't hired as quickly as I thought it would be hired, going through the process of all the people you had to get approval for, so it took sometimes 4 months, 5 months. So I was able to fund some money through that long process. I moved that money over. And now that everybody's, now it's a little bit easier now, but yeah, it's a work in progress. it's, you know, these are just items that we go, that really weren't budgeted from department to department, and I try to put them on a list, things that I like to get done. And obviously, I come here and I present, and hopefully everyone's generous and there's money left over, and it is what it is. I can't take it personally. I'm just telling you, this is how I'm doing my job, telling you some of the things that I have to put out there. They get funded, or they don't get funded, or they get put off.
I don't want to let go of this, but I know Betty has a question.
Well, it's not a question, it was more a comment that if we're thinking about the money that we have in free cash, it might make sense to make that kind of a appropriation with free cash money to let Bill do some of the other projects that have come up that are unexpected or that could be taken care of with some extra money. So, just a suggestion.
I agree. Phil?
Bill, you're 3 years into this now as a department. Have you ever filed for a reserve fund transfer?
I only did it once when I first started, and that was for a condition study. I was like 2 months on the job.
I mean, to me, the
Yeah.
police department issue you just described is a perfect example of what the reserve fund is for.
Right.
That was an unexpected expense that you had.
Yeah.
We spend, we allocate reserve fund transfers to a lot of different departments for a lot of different things. I think this committee would traditionally look very favorably on allocating that kind of money to maintenance
Yeah.
issues, that if they're delayed, they become more expensive, and other things are put off and become problems because you had to take care of an emergency.
Yeah.
So I'd urge you to consider that on those kinds of situations in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah, you use the magic words unforeseen, which
Yeah.
qualifies the expense for a reserve fund transfer request. So yeah, no, that would perhaps maintain your ability to go through your original punch list.
Yep.
Instead of postponing those things. So yeah, you might want to think about that. John?
On the subject of unforeseen, has there been an effort, has the town put together any sort of long-term maintenance? I realize that that's very difficult for somebody in your position to do, since you're dealing with problems on a day-to-day basis. But sometimes things are unforeseen because there's been no planning, and I wonder if you have an opportunity in your day to do that, or is that something that we should be looking at?
Well, so I also sit on the capital committee. So I think what happened, so when I first started the job, I said I had a good handle of the schools. I was here, I helped build all these schools, had a good handle on them. Obviously, there was never enough money to put into a new maintenance plan, even to maintain the school buildings. They're brand new buildings, but they're not new anymore. Glover School's almost 13 years old. Buildings deteriorate, especially when you're talking, there's 4,000 students, 1,000 people that staff them, so you have 5,000 people going through these buildings every single day. That's a lot of wear and tear on the hinges, on the doors, on the hardware, on the toilets, just think of how many times the toilet gets flushed every day. So there's a lot of, so what I thought we needed was a comprehensive study done. So we did a condition study. I probably should have, if I had to do it again today, I would ask for $150,000, because what we did, I didn't do a deep dive. I did a top dive. It told you all the things that you could see. But the deep dive, what we need to really go down to the basements and look at the foundations and the structure of the foundation and the boilers, to pull the boiler apart and say, okay, the boiler might look nice, but really it's all watered up from the inside. That's also a lot of towns now are starting to do these deep dives. Unfortunately, nobody wants to hear the end result. Because that's the reality. When you have 1 million square feet, you're gonna, it's like the fire stations. When I was working with the fire chief, I said, we really need to do 2 scenarios. 1, to build new fire stations, and 2, to gut them out and to rebuild them. Let the engineers tell us which is the best way to go. Should we remodel it for 1 million or build it new for 2 million? It's gotta be, you have to make that, what's the return on investment on that? You just can't say that you need a brand new building. We need to, we'll look at all scenarios so we can publicly present that, so everyone knows that we did due diligence on saying this is what the fire station needs. Some of these fire stations, we're not designed for the fire apparatus they have today. It's a horse and buggy many years ago, not for, a 20-ton fire truck that goes in it. But that's what we need. So I think that, Jackson do that. And also working with Joe Lynch at the DPW yard, I'm working with Joe on that. They're just starting to do a skim top dive of what the DPW needs for the next 20 years to maintain itself, you mean? And it's gonna have to be comprehensive, so we need to look at that. Do you put them all together? I think you need to put everything on the table.
Can that be done internally, or do you need to bring in?
That's, not- you know, so I'm a building engineer, and, you know what I mean? So I'm certified to look at a building and to run a power plant. That's my background, my certification. There's so many engineers into a building. You got life safety engineers, fire safety, elevator engineers, structural engineers, air quality engineers. That is you know what I mean? I have a lot of that certification, but that'd be a different job for me. I'd have to give up this job to do that job. So it's like, it's a balance. But you need to bring that type of expertise to the table, you know, so that's where you really need. When that condition study, there was 7 engineers just on that condition study. The handicap accessibility, that's a whole art in itself. It's unbelievable. Hardware, walkways, lights, crossways, it's
Yeah, when institutions do engineering studies like that, they always have done that.
oh yeah, right. You know, I mean, I can dabble in it, I mean, I can do it, but it's like, you know, look, it's,
Well, needless to say, I'm
right,
thinking about cost,
yeah.
which I imagine is substantial.
It is, yeah, you know, good studies like that, 100,000 plus.
But they're a good tool, because if they go through everything, it gives you the long-term, you get a much better comprehensive understanding of what the status of your buildings are, and you can start budgeting accordingly.
Yeah. It's hard, because I actually,
But they are expensive.
Okay, there's a
Yeah.
lot of issues on the table here, like budget accordingly would be a big one. Okay. But real quickly, Bill, do you have any hard copies left or digital copies left of that assessment? It was Drumney and,
yes, yeah,
I forget the name of the firm.
yeah, so I mean, Roseanne and Anderson, yep, yeah, DRA.
If you have some of those left, I'm sure Jonathan would like to see a copy.
If anybody wants a copy, you can send me an email, I can have Diane make a copy, and also a hard copy and a disc, and I can get them to you. I probably made about 35 copies so far, so they are distributed out there. I mean, so,
No, and, you know, obviously they're dated now and costs go up, but it is, and the methodology was basically, okay, this is what it costs per square foot to maintain a building like this, and this is what it costs per square foot to renovate a building like this, and this is what it costs to replace a building like this. So you get that kind of a breakdown. It's not very specific, and obviously, and they didn't have the time or the resources for that study to get, you know, way down in the weeds, but
Yeah.
but it still is, it's a great overview, and it shows that the town probably ought to be investing somehow, and I'm not sure what the budget mechanism would be, but we ought to be setting aside or be able to bond a ton of money more than we are doing now. It's an important subject, I'm sure. It's, you know, the selectmen and the capital improvement planning committee have to consider this, because, you know, we have a history of letting buildings fall down. And and one of the reasons I'm so happy with your department is because it's a step towards not allowing that to happen in the
Right.
future. And, you know, it's really essential. So it's great that you've gotten it to the point where you can address things seriously and you have a decent staff. But you don't actually have, aside from, you know, $42,000 in the budget, there's no sort of budget for fixing things, aside from, you know, the small things you do as part of a preventative routine. So that's the big elephant in the room as far as I'm concerned. Where do you get, you know, on a regular basis, the $100,000 for the small repairs and the $400,000 a year for bigger repairs? So I don't know, but that's not our scope right now.
Yeah. And I have to say, you know, I work fairly closely with all the department heads, so when, you know, they pretty much call me up, say, Bill, I have a problem here, and I'll say, well, you know, here's what I can bring to the table. I can supply some of the labor, some of it, you know, and maybe I can put $3,000 towards it, can you put the other three and get things done? So we're always working with one another, trying to maximize everybody's budget. Because sometimes you look at some of the, the reports, and there's 3 different departments paying for that work order to get it done. So we work very closely, and, I say the true testament of my department is you talk to any department head, there's no complaints. Everyone loves us, because they never had maintenance. You pick the telephone up, okay, Bill, I need to take care of, and I can send 2 guys over there. Not even the cost efficiency of getting the work done, it's just the time frame. That department doesn't worry about, have to pick up a phone call, trying to wait for somebody when they have their own job to do. So that's where they always like us. But, like I said, the more people know about us, the more I get backed up. That's the problem. Now everyone knows we're out there, so everyone's calling us.
Darnell?
And, Bill, we talked about this, and I think you mentioned it a little bit in the beginning. You talked about now that everybody knows about you, now you're getting backed up
Right.
on calls. So that means you're prioritizing different calls and stuff. Are you finding that you're getting calls that could be handled inside? Like I know the school departments still have their own maintenance staff
Right.
there. Are you kind of picking up some of the backup that they should be handling, overflowing into you? Other departments might have their own internal maintenance staff that didn't come all over. Are you ending up doing some of that extra maintenance that they might be or should be picking up in their budget, which might free up your office a little bit?
Yeah, basically, consolidated facilities are my job and my operations manager. We oversee 30 staff, actually 37 with the office staff. So the custodians' jobs are very specific of what they do. A lot of it's cleaning, working with the principals, and now, obviously now it's a lot of safety and security, locking down doors. So the game has changed a little bit. I mean, before a custodian could come in and clean and not have to worry about the 15 doors. Now you have to lock all the doors. That takes an enormous amount of time. But I oversee the custodians and the maintenance staff and consolidated facility staff. So pretty much all work orders come to us. So it's my job, my operation guy, to decide how we're going to get the task done for today. But we do a lot. I mean, there's the things that I wish I didn't have to do, but it's part of doing business. I mean, we assist the schools with snow removal. Like this last couple of weeks, my guys were going there when we have work orders I needed to get done, but we had to stop that and deal with snow removal.
So you're doing the libraries?
The library, constant aging, yeah.
Yeah, and the reason I'm asking this question is because, again, what we want to do is your department, similar to what I would say IT, both take roles and a lot of responsibilities out of other departments, and there's really no way to track
Right.
those dollars back. So like you said, we have $40,000 here for repairs, but I'm sure you're doing a lot more than that. We need to do a lot more than that, and the work that you're doing, there's got to be a mechanism, something that we can get some of this money from the other departments to get some of this done, or find a way to better estimate what funds should actually be in your budget to allow you to do this, to do your job better and have the equipment and the materials available so that you can get it done in a timely fashion and stuff. So, and that's why I'm asking, just to try to figure out a way that we can assist you in identifying opportunities to show where funds might become available, or institute other departments that you say, hey, you know what, we're doing X amount of work in this department, that department, over and beyond that. Maybe you might go look there for different additional funds or something to support your department. Because it's nice to be able to call someone to get stuff done, but they still haven't paid. Even though you're not doing it with an outside contract. They get paid, time and at the deference of not getting other things done. So we want to make sure that, your department, one, not getting abused, but two, we are getting their stuff for you.
I mean, I work very closely with departments. I really can't see any departments really is holding back. I mean, the school department's very good you know, obviously, I worked there for 12 years, and
Let's just talk about schools. I'm not saying about school, I'm just saying all across the
Right,
board.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
You
most
know.
departments, the biggest challenge would be the COA, their budget's very, there is no budget for maintenance. So a lot of my resources go over there, and which is fine. I wanna, you know, obviously the seniors, you know, had paid for all these town buildings, so we need to maintain that facility really well. The library, it's a high-tech building. There's, you know, there's a lot of sophisticated equipment. We spend a lot of time over there. I don't know what they do, with, you know, we probably has, you know, saved them about $30 to $50,000 on in-house staff. I mean, that would, they could not run with the heating controls that they have there. It's all high-tech, you know, it's all computerized, you know, so, you know, but we have a good relationship. I mean, it's great for my heating guy, because he likes to learn that high-tech stuff.
yeah, again, but like you said,
Right.
but that's time.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, and this, like you say, they're happy. You're saving them from having to go outside and hire
Right.
someone else to do that, and that's why that department was.
Right.
But we do want to understand that savings is, like you said, $30,000 to $40,000.
Yeah.
You know, that means something. That is something, and we want to identify that because maybe we want to address that as we go forward in your apartment and getting money back into your budget when other people come looking for funds. Say, hey, you know what? You've saved this amount of money
Right.
by having consolidated facilities. Don't you think we should put some money over here?
Right.
You know, when it comes down to bargaining for dollars.
Paul?
Bill, just a couple of things quickly,
Sure.
please. As discussed before, this is just questions from the subcommittee. Could you please send us some kind of list of that living document you have for your punch list
Yep.
that we funded from one time last year, just so we get a status of what happened with that. And in your, on Schedule E, in your professional services line item, you've got 10,000 budgeted for FY14, 0 appropriated for FY15, and 5,000 requested for level service for FY16. Can you just give us an overview of how that works?
Right, so how we started out with the brand new department, we hired DRA to come in to do a $50,000 study.
Okay.
And talking to the town administrator at the time, we said, you know, we should put some more money in there for above and beyond the scope of what we were doing conditions. If I had to bring in a structural engineer or different people, or a different architect to really go, to do more of a deeper dive. So we had that money, really didn't, and I really, at that time, I thought I had a good enough documentation, and I really didn't need it, didn't really use it. And so it was a 1 year of a lapse. So now as I'm getting more into some of these deeper dives with the DPW department, with the cemetery, with different, in actually the fire department, I thought it would be necessary, somebody needs to put in some money for professional services above and beyond your daily scope.
Okay.
I can only bring so much to the table. Sometimes I need to call an architect or an engineer to help me if I see something structurally. I need somebody else's stamp. So that's why I thought I'd, you know, start building that budget back up. I think it's nice to have.
So you just figured you didn't, for FY15, you didn't request?
Yeah, because it was too new. I had the report.
Yeah, so you
I
didn't
mean,
figure you needed it,
yeah,
so,
right,
but now
right.
you think you need to build it back
Yeah,
up? Okay.
yeah. Especially with what the fire department's doing in the DPW, you know what I mean?
All right.
So, I want to get back to, pick up on what Darnell was saying. You know, really, when you read Bill's narrative of the history of how the department came into being and people's original thoughts on how it might be financed, the idea was, yes, sure, there's got to be some money floating around in other people's budgets that could be reallocated to the consolidated facilities budget, but at this point, that ship has sailed. There is nothing there. You know, I'm glad we have all maintenance people or maintenance, you know, professionals now working directly for Bill. The people who that he's in charge of that aren't are custodial, really, not maintenance. I mean, there isn't anybody else in town that's not on your payroll in this department aside from the custodians.
That's correct.
That you oversee. And so there's no money in anybody else's budget for personnel, And there is money for maintenance supplies in all their budgets, and Bill saves them money by having consolidated the purchasing power of all the departments, and then, so he does the purchasing, and then, and all the departments, you know, or get the benefit of the discount that he can achieve by consolidation. But as far as actual money for maintenance projects, none of the departments, as far as I can tell, ever had any line items for actual maintenance.
Right.
So they were, you know, they were whistling past the graveyard. I mean, it was like,
Yeah.
are you kidding me? I mean, this is why we need a consolidated facilities department in the first place, because nobody was addressing it. It would be the first thing, maybe if they had it, then it would be the first thing to get chopped off.
Right, until the emergency.
So I don't think, I mean, it would be nice to quantify what department is getting the, you know, what kind of benefit, but the entire town is getting the benefit.
But
So, I just don't know if there's any, if it's worth tracking. I mean, I'm sure it can be tracked, because you know what buildings, what resources go into which buildings, and I'm sure that's a valuable thing to know. But it's, as far as separating dollars from any existing budget to reallocate it to consolidated facilities, I don't think that's happening.
it's not, well, my whole thing is not existing dollars in budgets, it's when we start to reallocate new dollars to budgets. And those are that's what basically I'm talking about. So when we start saying, okay, we have X amount of dollars available to be distributed, whatever we have left, when we start making those decisions.
The easiest thing in the world to do is just give it all to Bill, frankly.
Okay.
Because he was working
Let's
for
do
the
that.
entire
No.
town.
But I'm saying,
And preventing disasters left and right.
yeah, but
You know,
no,
so
no, no.
absolutely, the easiest thing in the world
No,
to do
it's
is
not.
to do that, because it's equitable and it's needed.
No,
So,
it's.
so you're right,
No,
Darrell.
it's not to give everything. But what I'm saying is, what we have to do, and again, you know, as we sit down, we start talking about where dollars go, who needs dollars, who needs things. I say we always need to strengthen our arguments for different departments, okay? Because we always do try to be as equitable as possible with all our departments and everything, and we try to come up with formulas that will, you know, basically share the load. Sometimes I think there are certain departments that should step outside of that, and I think consolidated facilities is one of those departments that we should look at funding above and beyond what might be equitable for other departments in the town, because they do touch and affect so many departments across the town, and they should get, I think, more of a consideration when we start distributing extra dollars, which we don't have many of, but extra dollars going
Right.
forward. And that's why I was asking for that, and that's why I think it's important. It's not like going and looking at an existing budget and taking money out. It's like when we go to put additional dollars or try to fund additional projects across the town, that we understand that Bill's department is probably one of the most important projects we could
Well,
fund to
it's-
maintain
yeah.
the facilities in
No,
this
I
town.
think we're all in
It's-
in
yeah,
agreement
everybody-
with that.
Yeah,
Yeah, you know what I'm saying, but that's what I mean when I say looking at things, because you know, sometimes in our arguments we're like, you know, we look at the immediate, like this is the last person to ask, and we overlook sometimes maybe some of those things, and it's better if we can support those arguments with documentation from Bill to have it here in front of us when we start talking about needs across the town, and that's what will be helpful.
So that's back to the question of the things that aren't on your punch list. Like you're coming in here asking us for $60,000 this year in one-time money for that punch list.
Right.
But there's probably, like you said, there's probably, you could go up, you could
double
quintuple
it.
that. And you could go to $300,000 and there'd still be plenty to do.
That's correct, yeah.
See, that almost is probably.
Well, there's all small projects.
All small,
Small
that's
projects.
just small projects,
And
right?
like I said, that's the type of stuff we need, so we, you know.
So it's almost like we almost like to need to know everything, rather
Right,
than just what you've triaged down to like your best
Yeah,
priorities
right.
right now.
Yeah, so like the one-time money, so last year he gave me 85.8.
85.8.
So we started out one-time money, so right now we have $15,000 left out of the 85. COA, I spent $9,300 on some heating controls. We did a lot of line striping in the school buildings, 5,000. You know, wiring to the COA, you know, for all the controls, we put in $2,500. Gym safety straps, we found out that the high school, all the basketball hoops didn't have safety straps. So if the cable ever, when you bring them up, the cable ever broke, so that was an insurance claim, came into me, said, Bill, you need to really but back when they built these schools 10 years ago, that was not required. Obviously, somebody must have had an accident, one of them must have broke, now they found out that these basketball hoops need safety straps, so I thought that was a major safety issue that had to get done. Paving in the back of Pierce Middle School, there was a retaining wall that was done during the construction project. It was all falling down. It was a $15,000 project if I capitalized it. I had some paving done. I just said, do I really need a retaining wall? Spoke to the town engineer, worked with me. He said, no, let's knock it down, let's grade it. So we spent $3,000, we saved $13,000. So it's things that's how, you know what I mean? I said, that was a great project. I saved $15,000. You know what I mean? It actually is better, it's not gonna fall down, and all you do is have to, plant seed every year. Simple, I mean, just try to maintain a concrete wall.
Simple for you. I don't think the Parks Department thinks it's
Well,
very simple. Just a little seed and.
Well, yeah, well, actually, it's, actually, I did a good thing. I actually graded it and put down seed myself, so.
Right.
All I have to do is cut it. But, so then it's, fire alarm, we did the fire alarm panel, we did a fire alarm panel here for $5,000, it's updated. Flying locksmith, I'm trying to do, we started out here, I think, I presented maybe 2 years ago, a $25,000 proposal doing handicap accessibility of the doors, the controls, all the hardware. So I'm on my last phase. So I probably need another $5,000 to finish all the hardware, the handicap handles. You can see, they never had them before, so these are things that I think need to be done. And I took that from the DRA study. They said that these are things that you should be doing, Bill. They're small items, but they do add up. Hub refrigeration COA at $1,500 for the refrigerator that broke. So I try to spread my money all around. Sometimes I have to flip and flop, but yeah, so it's amazing how quickly it goes. It's not.
Yeah. Lee Michael, but then I have a question for you.
Thanks, Ted. So, that list that you just read off was your one-time items,
Yeah.
which was 85,800 last year, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
And the one-time item list that you submitted to us for this year, I tried quickly adding it, looks like it adds up to $76,700.
Yeah.
But your
I hope it
levels,
added up to 60.
it doesn't. Your level service number is 60,000.
Yep.
Why the difference?
So I asked for $60,000 for one-time money.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
And it seems like the list that you submitted in your narrative adds up to 76,000.
I probably kept adding to it because the list I have, if I was to present you another list, it'd be 125,000.
That's what I want to get to.
Yeah,
What
right.
number do you really want and really need? And could we see the list?
Yep, I could make a copy of this, before I leave tonight and give you all a copy. This list is gonna change. And that's the hard
But the
part.
budget isn't. The budget will be done.
No, I understand that,
Right.
Jermaine.
But I don't want you to sell yourself short or, this project list short.
Yep.
The 60,000 seems too low.
Right, yep.
And the list that you submitted, as Ted said a couple of months ago, is probably too short now. So can we get an updated one?
Yeah,
with the-
so let me tell you a little bit my reasoning, how I did this. He gave me $85,000 last year. I increased one of my line items by $20,000. And I added for 60, so I try to look at what I put more in my budget to kind of balance it out.
But
I have to present a budget.
But Bill, if it's a one-time item, that
Yeah.
comes from a
Right,
different
yeah.
category, so you actually don't have to.
Yeah,
If you think things need to be done, Give us the best
Yeah.
list you have.
And we like to add up numbers and see where
Oh, yeah.
where the addition ends up on a line. So we want to see that your one-time monies list
Right.
totals the number that you're asking
But-
for on the one-time
right,
money line.
But I really, so I'm gonna advocate for myself, I still need to give you a budget that I need above and beyond this, because this money's gonna dry up eventually.
Yes, it
So
will.
if every year, if you
Yeah.
gave me 100,000 and I put nothing in my budget, I'd have nothing, I have 15 guys sitting around
I
with
am-
nothing to do.
I am begging you to ask for a bigger number
Okay,
and just show us the list.
yeah,
Well, I mean, it's good to know what the needs are.
yeah.
Yeah.
And to have that more widely known.
Yeah.
So thank you, Lee Michael, that's a good thing. The way you're describing this current year's operations, you said you had 15,000 left of that 85,000 that we had given you, but you ended up having to use some of that 85 for other purposes.
Right.
So you have $15,000 in
6 months.
left on that line item,
For
but you
5
have
months.
maybe $45,000 worth of projects from that original list that you will not be able to get done with the 15 that you have left, because you had to divert some of it.
Right.
So are some of those items carried over? I mean,
Yes.
they're on the live document,
That's,
so.
that's correct.
So they're in this new list.
Yeah, and yeah, that was a snapshot at that time, and as, as I find more, I mean, obviously, I believe me, I can walk around, if I took a week off with my notebook, I could come up with $1 million worth of projects, one-time projects. I don't wanna do that to everyone. I have to be realistic,
Well, you also have, you have to be able, I mean, your staff has to be able to handle them
well, yeah.
as well.
Well, yeah, yes, well,
Some of these are outside contracts.
That's correct, exactly. We,
Okay.
yeah, that's a good point, because I always like to share that. We are not a capitalized, I'm on the capital committee, I'm a licensed builder, I can do major projects. My staff can't justify, we can't do it with the staff I have. We have a maintenance department. A lot of the things that we're talking about above and beyond, you need 3 licensed mechanics versus the one in-house.
Right.
We can do a lot, we believe me, we do a lot, but there's a lot of these projects above and beyond, we can, some of the projects, like I want to paint the facade at the Collycott Cunningham School. So I have a $3,000, I want to rent a $3,000 lift to go 80 feet in the year to put a painting in it. If I was to sub that project out, it'd be $25,000. So if I can buy $2,000 worth of paint and a $3,000 lift, wow, I just saved $20,000. But it's gonna take my painter 1 month to go up there. But these are projects so I'm trying to be as creative as I can, not to try to say, I need $25,000 to put on the capital list, that's probably not gonna get approved, because there's so many other needs on the capital list. So I said, well, how can I be creative? I'll get a lift, I have a painter, I'll buy some paint. So I have to be creative, but that kind of puts me off on the maintenance too. That's why I'm probably falling back, when I have 200, 300 work orders that are behind schedule.
So, can you imagine developing, I mean, I see rugs, carpets for the
Right.
schools,
Yeah.
2 of the schools, front lobbies.
Yeah.
Where they have 1,000 kids a day, or
Yeah.
or maybe not quite that many, but, do you know how old those rugs are, and therefore would you be able to put all the rugs on a timetable and a maintenance schedule, a schedule for replacement purposes, and, just,
Well, I probably could, but that's,
I mean, that's
enormous.
maybe a pain, but,
Well, it's a pain, it's just that I'm already, I'm working my job now as it is. That'd be a different task, different job. I can do it, when I do my analysis and say, okay, it's budget time, what do I need, what project need to get done? But,
so why these 2 rugs then?
well, because they're probably the worst ones, a lot of rugs I'm not putting back, I'm trying to maybe put down VCC tile or something, I want to look at it, find a better product. It's rugs in the foyer with 1,000 kids every day, just ain't gonna last. They're gonna last 5 to 7 years, and it's 7 years. A rug in the back of obviously I always say people, a school like Glover is my most wear and tear school. It's one level, it's 700 people every day. where a school has 3 buildings, the 3rd floor never gets touched. I can wax that floor twice a year. I mean, the downstairs I'd be waxed 15 times a year. It's just all about wear and tear. So you really have to know how to analyze something. Carpets on the 1st floor, one level, are gonna get worn a lot more than the 3rd floor. So it's all your lobbies, it's all your entranceways, you know, it's like the door, the main doors, they're gonna operate 40,000 times in a year. Where upstairs, you might get 100 uses. Things wear out a lot quicker.
That's where you need the terrazzo tiles.
Well, yeah. But look at the cost of terrazzo tile.
That was a donation,
Well,
wasn't it?
yeah.
That was a donation.
Well, we did get some.
About
We-
We did get some, yeah.
Darnell?
I had another quick question for you, and that was regarding your deep assessments.
Yeah.
And you say the deep assessments run about, what, 125,000 to 150, whatever? I don't, just use $125,000. Just use that as a number. How often would you need to have those done? Because you can't do it this year and then that's it for 20 years. How often would you have to have those done to kind of
Well, if you, so
better
if,
be responsible?